Greetings, listeners. Howard and I spoke with a very special guest. She is the founder and managing partner of a high-stakes litigation boutique based in London. Today, we discussed her love for building and being entrepreneurial. We discussed her firm's focused vision and client base. And our guest shared insights into how her firm differentiates itself from big law and what she has learned from launching her own firm and more. Enjoy. Welcome, everyone, to the Future is Bright podcast. My name is Chris Batz, and joined by my co-host, Howard Rosenberg. Howard and I are at the epicenter of law firm talent and strategic growth here in New York City. Howard is a partner and the head of talent intelligence and acquisitions at Batz and Brunel, and I advise and facilitate corporate law firm mergers at Columbus Street. And today, we have a very exciting guest, Natasha Harrison, founder and managing partner of Pallas Partners. Natasha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Such a pleasure to have you on. So would love for you just to give us a very brief overview of your practice and what is Pallas Partners.
So my practice is in high stakes top end litigation, bet the company, acting for hedge funds, private equity houses and the like. And Pallas is a boutique in London and New York, which was established in 2022.
And you came from big law. What are you trying to do differently?
We are trying to be adaptive, nimble, and move ahead of the times, and leave behind the entrenched concepts that drive big law and which aren't evolving. And what I mean by that is not working, for example, to a highly leveraged model, which we don't think you need. We don't have to either because we're a lean team.
And clients are completely okay without the army of lawyers to back up cases.
I think they prefer it. You know, we go to court and we're a lean team and we have a massive bloated team on the other side and we still win. I think clients are getting much more sophisticated and much less patient with associates being thrown at matters because they have to be kept gainfully employed.
So Natasha, tell me about because when you're you're operating a high-end boutique. Tell me about the culture that you're trying to build within the firm going forward.
So the culture is really, really important to me. And the beauty of starting your own firm is you can set that from the start and you're not having to fix anything. So it's a very collaborative culture and it's a flat structure as well. And that's important to me because I don't do sharp elbows. I think it makes for a toxic work environment. I don't think it brings out the best in people. We're also building a firm which has a sense of purpose. So it's not just about, drilling out the hours. It's more than that. And in that respect, we've put ESG and diversity and pro bono at the heart of our practice.
And how do you reinforce that culture on an everyday basis? Because obviously everyone must be flat out, given that you're a lean structure, you're doing high stakes litigation. I mean, how do you preserve that integrity of the culture like that?
Well, I think the size is one thing because we're a boutique. We're not a law firm spawning, multiple jurisdictions with multiple offices. And I think that makes it easier to achieve. I think as we evolve, we're going to have to be disciplined about retaining that type of culture. And I think it's about having contact and sort of building it into the very foundations of the firm so that when you're hiring people with whose visions and values are aligned.
Are you getting kind of worried that as you continue to build out the practice that the thing that you kind of has escaped from, that you're trying to preserve the very integrity of what makes you special, being so uniquely, sized in the marketplace?
No, I'm not, because I have a very clear vision about what we're doing and where we're going. And we are not going to be, as I say, a firm with lots of offices and anonymized faces. I know every single person in this firm, from a receptionist all the way up to the partners, and it will never be so big that I don't.
So you really bring up a good point, Natasha. What is the right size for where you're trying to go, knowing that you have an office in London and New York?
I know what the right size isn't.
Okay.
And I think for a boutique, we will never go over 90 lawyers, split evenly between London and New York. I think the danger is drifting into that grey area where you're neither a boutique or big law, and that's a very dangerous space to go. So for me, it will always be under 90, 100 lawyers, split evenly between New York and London.
Yeah. Yeah. So we know you, and you shared, and you're going to be sharing with us today, your entrepreneurial nature and your love for building. Before diving into that deeper, I'd love to hear, is there another industry leader or law firm that's inspired you to do what you're doing today?
Yeah, so Selendi Gay in New York, which predates us by some years, was completely inspirational. It's partly women-led. They left big law, Quinn Emanuel in that case, and have built something quite extraordinary. So that was my inspiration, probably in particularly Faith Gay.
That's excellent. And in your journey, did someone from that firm mentor you, or in your big law background, or even prior to practicing law, it's been a desire for you to have something like this of your own?
No, before I started practicing law, I was a 20-year-old woman trying to get into the law. The notion of actually building my own law firm was very, very far removed. I think the reason that Faith has been important is to see and trailblaze, someone a little bit older than me, that it can be done. And there aren't many women in law at that sort of level, even mine. So that was very inspirational to me.
Natasha, why did you want to become a lawyer?
That's a very good question. I come from a sort of first generation in the UK. I'm the eldest of four girls. I was the first in the family to go to university. And for first-gen families, they tend to drive towards professions and drive their children towards professions. And so I gravitated towards the law because it was a profession. But I also did a lot of work experience there beforehand to really test it out. And I love the analytical side of it. I love the people side of it as well, and the advocacy side. But the roots started really in thinking and feeling I had to have a profession.
Prior to law school, and maybe just college itself, were you entrepreneurial during work? Did you have side hustles or businesses when you were in high school and other days? And the entrepreneurial nature of getting clients and doing really good work has been part of your DNA?
I was too busy tied to my desk studying to do side hustles. But I was very focused. So, if I happened to meet someone at an informal drinks party or something like that, who I thought was interesting, I would just ask them for work experience. And they were usually so shocked, they sort of said yes. When I was at university, I raised a significant amount of money to put on, a huge performance at the theatre. And it's about thinking outside the box and being creative and not staying in your tramlines, I think.
So, Natasha, now that you are an entrepreneur, you're a builder, what key skills do you think you've had to learn on the job, given your legal training?
I think one of the most important things is complete resilience, because it doesn't go like that. It goes up and down, up and down. And that resilience and self-belief is really, really important. I think being prepared to hear no is important. So what I mean by that is I always say, what's the downside by contacting this client and doing that? And some people will get back to you, some people won't get back to you, and you have to keep going. And it's not personal to you. And we have a very, very successful practice in terms of the types of clients I work with, I'm privileged to work with. And they're very long-standing clients. And I think if I think about how the relationships originated, it was probably emailing in the first place or finding a connection. So I think the answer to that is In terms of building and being entrepreneurial, it's about being resilient and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. That is really, really important.
I'm half curious. You mentioned you like getting into the numbers as a lawyer. Has it always been a desire for you to follow the financial services industry? And there's just been growing interest and curiosity and love working with those types of clients?
There's always been an interest since an early age. And that's probably where, when I was qualifying, that's where the cut and thrust was. And to be able to blend that with law was really important. And then, obviously, I've lived through more financial crises than I care to count now. But, it's generally always pivoting around the finance industry, which also really got me interested, particularly in the area of contentious restructurings and litigation arising out of, big recessions and the like.
Yeah. So just stating for the audience, your clients are hedge funds, private equity funds, sovereign investors, other related financial institutions. Natasha, could you share with our audience, and as much as you're allowed, what's top on their mind? What keeps them up at night? And kind of pull our audience into your world a little bit as you're counseling clients.
I think right now clients are looking for opportunities to create yield, which is really quite hard in the current market. Yeah. I think the disruption and political and geographical disruption going on across the world takes away predictability of any form. And I think people are trying to weigh up, where their place is at and how that impacts them. I also think the next cycle, which I think is coming, and I don't actually what I think it's going to be, but clients are looking for opportunities there, opportunities to invest and how they can create upside on that. So having a really broad and deep understanding of the market more generally is really, really important. It's not just talking about legal principles. It's much more important than that and much wider than that.
Would you be able to kind of talk to the audience about the differences between kind of the London-based aspect to the client base and the New York aspect, because they're slightly different? Is that right?
Not so different. I mean, we do have a strong white-collar practice in the US, which tends to focus on individuals. But the driving practices between London and New York, the client base is very similar. I tend to act for, as I say, a lot of US hedge funds and houses. I look after their European positions, and vice versa. My New York office looks after their positions in the States. And the commonality of the clients is really important because we're connected. We're the only boutique, or one of the only boutiques with offices in London and New York. And we can provide that sort of flawless services on what's the most important financial markets in the world.
Natasha, Pallas has been in the headlines for cases, in one particular around Credit Suisse. What can you share on that matter?
So I can share that. One Sunday morning, my phone started ringing and didn't stop for about 48 hours. When Credit Suisse and the AT1s were written off, which is a type of debt instrument, the market exploded. And following weeks of stories being told or things being said to investors that everything was fine, it clearly wasn't. The price dropped to so low. You had people trying to offload, and you also had institutions trying to buy at that discount so they could then create upside. We have proceedings in Switzerland at the moment, and there'll be broader proceedings in other jurisdictions as well. And it's basically about holding states accountable for wrongfully intervening into private credit matters.
Yeah.
Natasha, how do you balance your time between New York and London? Are you constantly on an airplane?
I'm on an airplane quite a lot. I say my home base is London, but I'm out in New York frequently, because of my clients there, but more importantly because of my office there. And I think it's critical to stay connected. And let's just say I have some good air miles.
Natasha, I mean, people who sell, people who like building relationship and build value for their clients, they sometimes have a certain secret sauce to how they do that. And Howard and I understand you as a builder, as an entrepreneurial person. Is there anything unique in your approach that you do that's unique for you in relationship building with your clients?
I'm not sure there is. I mean, I think actually listening properly to what your clients want and what's driving them is really important. And a lot of people don't actually listen properly. I think having a deep understanding of their issues, nurturing that relationship through good and bad, those are the things I think are important, above and beyond providing flawless legal services. And actually just being genuinely curious and interested, and the rest follows from that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a secret sauce, but that's how I approach it.
Natasha, one of the constant themes on these podcasts that Chris and I facilitate is around law firm growth. And one of the things that keeps coming up is technology, use of technology coming into the practices. What's it like running kind of a high-powered boutique with the technology coming on board currently?
I think it's really exciting, and it's something we're working towards. What it does, going back to your question about lots of lawyers on the case, it allows us and will allow us to leverage without hiring lots and lots of lawyers. So we can get larger, we get smaller and the like, but through AI rather than through hiring, because a lot of the roles, sadly or not, at the more junior end, are going to become far less relevant.
Natasha, when you think about adding to your team and looking at talent, which is critical, it's your assets, it's the expression and the service and product of your firm, what do you look for? What is it that is important to you that you want your attorneys to identify and other attorneys to add to the team?
Well, we've talked about an alignment of values and value system. That is really, really important to me. I like diverse teams. I think that's really important. And I think diversity in all of its forms delivers better results. And then I look for people with a fire in the belly, who love the law, love what they're doing, and, take great pride and joy in it. And that to me is really important. You also have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and outside your comfort zone. And a lot of people think they will be, but they're not.
Are you taking on less kind of junior people coming into the practice as a result of that technology issue that you mentioned, Natasha? Is that influencing?
I mean, we don't hire straight out of law school anyway. We want them to have a couple of years at least around the block. And certainly because we're lean already, we don't have to scale back on hiring. And in fact, bringing through younger associates, with some experience on the belt is one of the most satisfying aspects of this job. I mean, I have in my team 3 partners who I've known since we're baby associates, and growing them up has been fabulous and a privilege.
Do you get involved in internships even at a boutique level?
Yes, we do. Again, I think it's really important to give the next generation exposure and experience, and to learn what it's like to be a lawyer. So yes, we do.
So Natasha, your firm has recently, or you have been recently recognized by the Financial News 50 Most Influential Lawyers. What does that mean to you and mean to the firm?
I think just having the recognition is very satisfying. I found it quite surprising that I was up there, but that's probably my self-deprecating approach. I think for the firm, what it does it demonstrates the quality and the standard of lawyering that we all operate off, and that my lawyers are expected to operate off as well. So in that respect, I think that's what it probably means to the firm, and it reflects the quality of the talent here.
Yeah. And Natasha, if I had a whole audience, and we do have a lot of future female law firm leaders listening today, what advice would you give them, knowing that you've done what you've done so far in your career?
I would say don't be scared to take risks. I think calculated risks, of course. And I think a lot of women coming up tend to be more risk adverse. I'm obviously generalizing. And it goes back to that point, get out of your comfort zone, because it's the only way you can grow.
And how do you decompress from all that risk taking that you're engaged with, Natasha?
Calculated risk taking.
Calculated, of course.
Getting out of your comfort zone. How do I decompress? Well, I have 2 teenagers, so they keep my hands full.
So it's good for the negotiation skills, is that right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They definitely keep me on my toes, probably more than my clients.
Are they going to become lawyers like Mom?
No.
No.
I think they've grown up watching me at the dining room table, and I think they also see the way the law's changing, and plus I've discouraged them to go into law. I want them to find their own path.
Sure. Yeah.
So staying on, I know the firm is still young, it's still growing, but are you even thinking about succession planning at this stage, about growing, how the firm continues?
Absolutely. I've been thinking about it from day one. The firm is not me. It is talented lawyers, associates and partners. And success to me is that other partners thrive and at the right time are ready to succeed as well and take over. Failure to me is that not happening. So I've had it on my mind since I started, particularly when you look across the city here and in the US, the really challenging transition issues that have taken place from one to the other. I think you've got to think about it from day one.
Is there a track record of success of those high-power boutiques succeeding long-term in terms of beyond their founder status?
Not that I'm directly aware of. It's very hard. You've built something from scratch. It's you've imprinted yourself on it, and for some, the notion that it could survive or even thrive without you will make you feel irrelevant, and no one likes feeling that.
Yeah,
but actually, if you want to build something for the long term, you've kind of got to take the ego out of it.
Yeah, very important. Well, Natasha, please finish this sentence. The future is bright because?
Because the world is changing, which creates opportunity.
Yeah, love it. Natasha, how can people find you, contact you, follow you on social media?
I'm on LinkedIn, and anyone can reach out to me through LinkedIn.
Excellent. Natasha, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Natasha. Thank you.
Thank you.